Two souls the same. With you, I'm everything. You never asked me to change a thing. They set our world on fire, but our hearts will burn for miles. I see your beauty shine. You radiate with light. Our hearts dancing time. You're one of a kind. Stars.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League, where we are getting towards the last legs. We have got our upper semi-final matchup for tonight with Peach Cats taking on Winthrop University. My name is Gordo. I am joined today by TDS, as always. And TDS, we are really getting down to brass tacks here with our top 8 teams in the ACL.
Well, tonight we have the winners finals, and then it's going to be all the remaining teams going at it to try and secure those two spots over in the grand finals. And these are teams that what we're going to see tonight are teams that some have as favorites and other that I gotta be honest, I was doubting all the way until this point, but now they're finally coming in and maybe they can give us the surprise. But overall, this is the strongest teams that we have left. You could argue maybe one of the stronger ones also battled against another really strong team and got eliminated in the way. But apart from that, I feel like this is arguably what you could hope for to have in the top 8.
Yeah, completely here. We got our other upper semifinals matchup going on simultaneously. That's going to be between Ole Miss and Taco or Team Fish Taco. So those guys also going to be looking for a spot in those winners finals up against the winner here tonight. And then our matches over in the lower bracket. So after today, we're going to be all best of fives going forward. Best of 5 on Monday, best of 5 on Friday for the next 2 weeks until we have crowned our
Yep.
champion. But let's start off by highlighting tonight's teams, 2 of the winningest teams in the ACL so far this season. Let's bring on up the Peach Cats roster first. They're going to be taking to the blue side for game number 1 here. It is Moose Hater, Keel, Onat, Wixie, and Isles.
Exactly. A roster that you see the names there and you pretty much expect or think about NACL because of the name value, the talent that they have, even in their coaching staff. You know that these are players and a team in general that has a lot of preparation and a lot of just NACL driving all around them. I'm excited to see how they're going to perform. To me, they have the strongest and the best AD carry in the league, plus the player that so far to me performed the best in the regular season as well in the form of Wixie. And I think that this team has played really well in trying to navel Wixie as much as possible and allow for him to be the hyper carry that we kind of expect to see from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then facing off against them on the other side is going to be Winthrop University, fresh off competing over in the NACL qualifiers. They were all the way up into the promotion tournament, did not quite make it through, but they are looking like one of the best teams in collegiate, if not the standalone best team. It is Denethor, Trickster, Sword, Mobility, and Chookies.
And a team that, once again, I doubted them all the way until this point. I thought that they weren't going to really be in the upper bracket nor reach this far in the tournament. But realistically, they've been performing really, really well. The players have been stepping up to the plate, and they've been one of the more consistent teams in terms of being able to not only get wins, but just be able to win series without dropping games, even, which is something surprising to see from a team that maybe didn't have the same level of expectations as other teams. Players we want to highlight from here, probably more than likely, Denethor and Mobility feels like the two big outliers that you need to focus on this team because Denethor already showcasing great things over in the combines, people keeping their eyes on the top laner from Winthrop, and then Mobility, which had a stint in the NACL, feels like a player that does have that level but didn't have the best of luck over there. So hopefully he can reach the same level once again and try and prove himself in a much more consistent environment that it's not named EG.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think, yeah, that was a real dysfunctional EG
Yeah.
Challengers team that Mobility was subbing in on. They were coming in and out, different mid laners, different bot laners, and it took them nearly the whole season to really end
Exactly.
up swapping players around to the degree where they were able to figure things out. So definitely excited to see Mobility going forward in his career with teams that he gels with a little bit better. I completely agree with you on the top lane as well. Moose Hater versus Denethor, I think, is an underrated top lane
Yeah.
showdown here. I think both of these players are just constantly exceeding the expectations that folks have set for them. Denethor, has really started, I think, to become a really star prospect in the minds of a lot of NA amateur Twitter, at the very least, a player that people are listing off as somebody they expect to be in the NACL before too long, and that they think has a really high ceiling. And then Moose Hater, love him or hate him, love his champion pool or hate his champion pool. Every time he comes out to play at the tier 2 and tier 3 levels of competition, this guy has been one of the best that the
Yep.
region has to offer. And fresh off another break here, was not competing in summer. He's been back in spring, and the Peach Cats have been absolutely terrific. So there's a lot to be said for both of these teams. Both of them have dropped nearly no games the whole way through. They haven't dropped any series on Peach Cats. They've only dropped 3 games total. Winthrop has dropped 1 series, but that series contains their only losses. They've only lost two
Yeah.
games throughout their whole run. So both very, very winning heavy teams. Both teams going to be coming in with lots of arguments you can make for why you expect them to be ahead. But we can check on out the predictions graphic to find out what most folks around the Aegis community are thinking about today's matchup. And it's pretty Peach Cat's favorite, TDS.
Yeah, it feels like a bit too one-sided when thinking about it, honestly, but I can understand why. Like going into this, and we mentioned this in the start as well, it's one of the probably two tournament favorites going against a team that feels completely underrated, even though they've done a lot to try and prove themselves, right? They went into the NACL queues really effectively, really close to being able to achieve that, a team that feels really consistent both in the solo scene and in the amateur scene, and that has players that have had that sort of experience as well as having a lot of star power that maybe they are developing in the way as well. But nobody feels like putting Winthrop in that echelon of fate tournament favorites, and that's the difference that Pitch Cats has over them. Everyone sees them as the tournament favorites. Winthrop is a different story.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair, and I definitely think, there's the faintest of advantages you can give over towards some of the members of the Peach Cats. Some of these names are names that people were floating around as potential LCS prospects. I know we
Yep,
definitely were over on the Salt Mine talking about folks like Wixie and Keel as in Isles that you could potentially see try to make that
exactly.
next step up. So far, no news about any of those, and most of the rosters seem to be kind of figured out, but
Yeah,
still going to be very exciting. All of them, I think, players on both sides really should all be considered NACL prospects coming into the next split. And I think this matchup, especially, going to be really exciting to see who's kind of looking better right now in the peak of the offseason, when a lot of those tier 2 and then tier 3 rosters are starting to be ironed out. Exactly where are they going to fall? We assume this Winthrop squad is going to continue to compete together as a CLOL team, but the Peach
yeah.
Cats, a lot of folks here on from Wildcard, the organization. Are they going to stay there? Are they going to move around? What about those who weren't on Wildcard before? Are they potentially being considered to join? These are the kinds of questions that I think a lot of the community is asking about this squad, and it's something going to be that we're really looking forward to finding out here. Personally, for me, I look at the runs that both of these teams have shown so far. Winthrop University taking down UCSD and Lotus Exiles. Peach Cats taking down CCG and Fear. Am I crazy here, TDS? I feel like Peach Cats have had a much harder run, and
Yeah.
I'm way more impressed by what they've been able to put together so far.
Yeah, like I don't want to take it away from Winthrop in any way because, like I've said before, I've doubted this team all the way through. Like even over just shouting it out over in the South Line, I've doubted Winthrop for as much as I can, just because I am not a huge believer in the Silo ecosystem and all that. But every time I've doubted them, they've been able to pull through in a lot of those situations. But like you're mentioning, looking at each of this team's runs, comparing Fear and CCG to what Winthrop has had to go through, it doesn't feel like it's to the same level when really thinking about team strengths. Now, there is teams down there that both of these have faced that are still alive, which means that at the very least, both of these teams have faced teams that are strong enough to keep themselves in the top 8. But that doesn't really mean that the strength is equal for either side. And especially depending on how this matchup goes, you can make an argument that Pitch Cats is really going to be unbeaten or beaten by a team that is close enough in power level to them, or that there's more opportunity for different teams to step up to the plate than what we were expecting if Pitch Cats end up losing here.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have to find out exactly how they're going to end up stacking up against each other. Still waiting for some players to end up in a lobby here as we're waiting around to see where exactly they're hanging out. I know some folks are coming in
Yeah.
off of the AOE Combine. Shout out to everybody coming in from the raid from there, by the way, going from one NA amateur event over to the next. Love to see you guys continuing to be engaged with the scene here.
The
Some of the
real
Peach Cats I know
MVPs.
were just in that match, so they're probably winding down, regrouping with the squad, making their way over. So we will have to wait and see where exactly they are coming in from, but still, plenty more roles to talk about, plenty more players to highlight between these two teams. I think the jungle matchup is a really interesting one as well. Keel, a player that a lot of people have really, really high on their rankings of North American up and coming talent. Trickster
Yep.
is kind of going up and down. I think I remember his run on Cincinnati Fear when the NACL was still separate
That was a
from
while.
the or when the NACL didn't include amateur teams, when it was still the Academy League. He had a really
Yep.
solid run with them there, has been moved over to Winthrop more recently, and I think has been one of the better junglers in collegiate since then. And coming in on a team that I think is all around as stacked as this Winthrop squad, he's been able to put together some really impressive stat lines.
Yeah, overall, it feels like one of those pieces that if you're able to put into place really effectively, can find a lot of value for the team. And he has lanes that can be played around with, which enable Trickster to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more useful for a lot of the different situations that they are facing. I don't think he's been particularly the strongest jungler, but in terms of how he facilitates for the team, I feel like he's up there comparing to the quote unquote stronger junglers. And I think that a matchup against Trickster is one of the harder parts that any team will face because he doesn't give you a lot of inches when looking about trying to take advantage of the jungle. I feel like his position is one of the hardest to take advantage of, and then he also enables the team really effectively. So if Pitch Cats want to try and take advantage of the side of Winthrop, I don't think looking at the jungle is the right idea. They have to put Kill in a place where he can try and carry because, like you were mentioning, I think Kill is a much more carry-oriented player, or at the very least, he has a pool that fits the carry side a bit better. But you do have to enable him as much as possible, and that may be a place where if Trickster understands this, may find more opportunities to try and take advantage.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. And then the really interesting one I think is going to be the bot lane. If you're looking to try to capitalize on an advantage from the Peach Cat side, I think the place you're
Yep.
probably looking is at Wixie and Isles and how powerful they can be as a duo.
Yep.
Again, both of these guys. I mean, Isles has played in LCS playoffs before. He's been a long time Academy player. Really, really stacked resume on him, and I think Wixie as well has just been so impressive and continues to reach new heights as he plays more and more at the tier 2 tier 3 level. Was on Immortals
Yep.
Academy for a little while and now is coming back from a trip to Korea where he was really hard grinding and is shown in his results in the ACL so far. Like you said earlier, I think he's been one of the more impressive 80 carry prospects that we've gotten to see over the course of this ACL split. Facing off against Mobility and Chookies, I mean, Mobility has shown us a lot before, and he's got a lot of experience playing with Chookies throughout the rest of the summer split, where these two have
Yep.
been playing together for Winthrop and having made top 4 in the NACL qualifiers. But I think we're talking about a different level of pedigree here, and the Isles and Wixie train is full steam ahead with how hyped people are for it. It's going to be Mobility and Chookies having their work cut out for them.
Well, the main thing about 80 carries in the ACL feels like the competition that we found in the ACL for the 80 carry position, particularly, was kind of not only consistently good, but also like each of these 80 carries could take a game by storm, and then the other one disappeared because of what the enemy 80 carry did to them. So it's really interesting how many dynamics we've had so far with a lot of the 80 carries, how they played, how they perform, and just look at what happened with TFT, right? They just took Mage away from them because they are taking him over to the LCS. So already you could say ACL pretty much equal or better than the NACL since the 80 carry here got promoted to the LCS. I would say that's
Yeah.
my coping pill right there. So hopefully everyone actually takes that as well. But I like the fact that these 80 carries can showcase themselves as well in this manner, and I feel like there's a lot of players to keep on looking forward to. I'm just waiting to see the news about Wixie joining an NACL team because I would think it would be completely weird to not see him join an NACL side this in the coming spring.
Yeah, I agree. Great. This is as good an opportunity as any now that it's been officially announced on the official Aegis stream. Congrats to
Yeah.
Beach making it to LCS. The first ACL to LCS promotion directly. The first of many to come, I'm sure. Some may say, he played for a little amateur team
The
called
real pipeline.
Disguise that, maybe put a little bit of a spotlight on him, but we're gonna ignore that. It's straight from ACL, baby. It's
I
all
don't
about
remember
the
that
ACL
team
effect.
honestly.
No, exactly. Nobody does. It's about Team Fish Taco in
Yeah,
the ACL. That's really where all the talent's getting scouted from.
exactly.
That point aside, we haven't featured mid lane yet, and as we get into draft, maybe a little bit of an opportunity to talk about it a little bit. Onat, fresh off his first split in the NACL on Supernova, had a little retirement scare there for a couple months, but is now back to unretired. He's pursuing his education further, so is making some lifestyle changes, but is going to still be looking to compete, as he just recently announced. And then Sword, already in collegiate over on the
Yep.
Winthrop side. A lot of folks will remember him from his time on TSM Academy. He was also a support for a little while over on 100 Thieves Next. Now moving back over to his original role mid lane on the Winthrop side. And again, is shared in all of those accolades that Winthrop put together over the course of the summer split.
Pretty sure he was also there was a stint on FlyQuest's third team where he was also support.
True.
Over in the spring where NACL was 16 teams, he was also part of that. So it's a pretty interesting matchup in the mid lane. I'm so just want to preface this by saying I'm so glad that Onat didn't retire, or that he unretired, because I was a big fan of Onat when he qualified for the NACL. So glad to have him back. Hopefully he gets more chances and can keep up the combination of lifestyles up and be able to play even in silo, hopefully, as he's also pursuing his degree in, I'm not sure in which university, but over there, if I'm not wrong. So hopefully he can keep on doing that. And in the mid lane matchup particularly, I was going to mention the Orianna, but I'm trying to look at the control mages because it feels like it's going to be one of those more contested points for both of these teams, as we see the Orianna, the Nico, as well as a lot of pretty meta bans, and the Varus that last week was actually kind of uncontested to a certain degree, which was weird to see.
Yeah, I agree. It was interesting to not see too much Varus. That pick was so big at Worlds, and it's been buffed since it was at Worlds, so it's super powerful. But this time around, it's going to be an insta-lock Kalista for the Peach Cats. They want to play an aggressive bot lane through Wixie. He has been a fan of the Kalista, has drawn some bans on it so far in the regular season. Now going to get an opportunity to be playing it alongside Isles.
Just give me the Caitlyn Morgana, please. I feel like at this point, people forget it exists, but I swear it can be played. There's instances where it can go through it. And I think against Kalista Renata, which is pretty much the consistent duo that you see in the bot lane, you go for it. You can go for it against it. So hopefully Winthrop does play around it, but Pitch Cats go for a really strong bot lane duo, plus having their mid laner, which for Onat is quite strong.
Yeah, definitely is here. So going in for potentially a Caitlyn Lux duo. It looks like the Renata going to get paired alongside the Kalista. I'm not crazy about the Renata coming in so early. It feels like it's such a good disengage pick against some of those engagey bot laners. But if you're facing down Caitlyn Lux, these guys are going to be so far away from you throughout the entire laning phase. Doesn't feel like the Renata is going to be able to accomplish too much, and they're not going to be able to play that kind of aggressive Kalista lane that you're so often looking for when you lock in this bot lane. I think this is a great counter pick that Mobility and Shookies have been able to put together for themselves on the Winthrop side, and then the flex pick of this Talia. But Peach Cats get the Ari. This has been Onat's best champ throughout the ACL.
Yep.
He's been so impressive on that one. If you watch the playoff promo that I think we're going to show when we're loading in either way, he had some huge interrupts in the featured matchup we had between Peach Cats and Mirage. That was so crucial to them being able to win some of those games, and I've been really impressed with what I've gotten to see out of him in that champ so far.
Yeah, and trying to build up on the narrative. I remember one of the main champions that he also used to qualify over to the NACL was this Ari. So certainly quite versed on the champion, quite capable of playing around with it, and it's also really good to try and set up picks. Against these three squishy champions, probably going to be one of the main tools to try and control a lot of the spaces and try and get a lot of the quick picks so that you can turn those into objectives. As the second round of bans are going through, a lot of time is taken trying to decide what to opt into, but a lot of focus, like we were mentioning, towards the top laner from Pitch Cats. Moose Hater has a weird champion pool, and you don't want to play against it, or at the very least, against the biggest offenders from that top lane pool. And then on the other side, maybe a jungle ban could end up coming through here, but I'm thinking top lane is also going to keep on being the main focus.
Yeah, and I do think that's a point that you want to emphasize here a little bit. Pretty sure that's a Zac Top ban. They've played far more games of Zac Top than they have of Zac Jungle over on the side of the Peach Cats. In fact, 4 games of Zac Top, 0 games of Zac Jungle. So you should definitely be anticipating that champion could be coming on through. Plus 3 more Zac games since they got into playoffs. So it's been a very big favorite of Moose Hater thus far. That's going to be the Twisted Fate, as you said there, locked in for Sword. So looking for a little bit of a globals comp between the Twisted Fate and the Talia, who now is likely confirmed to be going to the jungle. How do the Peach Cats want to respond to this, knowing that they're going to have folks coming to their side lanes? The Kazakhs lock in, comes through for Keel.
Okay. The Kazakhstan, maybe something tankier here. The Udyr, the Ornn could be the choice. I remember Udyr from Musader back in spring was quite consistent, but with how they've drafted so far, I feel like the Udyr or the Ornn probably would be much weirder choices to try and think about. It's going to be the Fura going blindly, but the remaining choices are going to be the Jax, which ends up being a bit of a skill matchup with how you try to play around the riposte and the counter strike, and then potentially maybe something like a Camille if you want to try and play the consistent side of it. Aatrox is still available, but I think that eventually Fura does outscale the Aatrox, so it's a bit weirder in that sense. And then the Renekton, that it has the point and click CC to follow up on a lot of the setup that they already have on Winthrop. It ends up being the Renekton, so yeah, the options were pretty pigeonholed from what Winthrop could have opted into, but this is kind of the lesser evil, not because I think the Renekton is strong or anything like that, but because you have already way too much setup. So with this sort of point and click composition that you drafted, you have a lot of potential pick, onto multiple members. There's no true tank on Pitch Cat, so if someone gets caught at a position, you can blow them up immediately. And then also the amount of objective damage and objective control that they have can be really good when trying to force skirmishes in certain areas.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You know, Denethor, he's got a very traditional top lane champion pool. And that's not a criticism. Most top laners in the world play, you know, the same set of top lane champions. Not everybody is a Moose hater whipping out some of the crazy stuff. And he's not among those that whip out the crazy stuff too often. So the Renekton's his most played alongside the Gnar throughout the regular season. I think you would rather take the Renekton into the Fiora than the Gnar in most situations. And he's just going to go for that kind of team fighty power, maybe a little bit of early game lane dominance. There is a lot of potential to influence the side lanes, like we talked about, coming out of this Winthrop team. So he's definitely well enabled to potentially be able to move on up there, get the Talia, get the Twisted Fate coming up, joining him, maybe even a little roam from Chookies on the Lux, and just try to outnumber Moose Hater and build himself up into being a really dangerous crocodile.
And that sort of plan, trying to opt into putting a lot of pressure on the top lane, can end up working out really well for the side of Winthrop. And it's something that, trying to bring it back to what happened earlier this week in the Mirage Fear matchup, right? Or earlier this week, no, last week in the Mirage Fear matchup. We had Renekton played in, if I'm not wrong, 3 out of the 3 games, actually. So each of the times that we saw the Renekton, it felt like, or actually 2 out of the 3, it felt like it could be really strong, and it actually was effectively winning lane to a certain degree, but it never pushed the issue enough that you could see the value of the Renekton. And that kind of playstyle with the Renekton can end up being worried, because you now play with a champion that doesn't have the same level of impact that you're drafting him into being. So hopefully Winthrop, with this amount of global pressure that they have thanks to the Talia and the Twisted Fate ultimate, with the fact that they have a lot of point and click CC to just lock down targets and blow them up, maybe they can push the issue a little bit more and make the Renekton be the force, the big force of nature that you want him to be, the big strength that you want to have on your side. As on the other side, I think Pitch Cats, with their composition, they probably want to try and punish the Renekton as well, which pretty much is the easiest champion I think that you can try and punish, because everyone else has way too much range for a lot of the champions on your composition. And I kind of want to go back to the point you were making at the beginning with the Renata pick, right? Because I do agree with you. I think the Renata was picked a bit too preemptively, but it's a consequence of the fact that Kalista exists. Not because Renata is bad, but I think that when you pick Kalista, you're kind of forced into going Renata anyway. Because if not, you lose out on so much value from the Kalista champion. And in that sense, now you're kind of putting your composition in a really strange spot, because the only one that is affected by the ultimate from the Renata is the Renekton. Everyone else has range, and they don't care that much.
Yeah, definitely. Unless you can force them into some kind of choke or something, it's going to be very
Yeah.
difficult to get the most value possible out of that hostile takeover. I will say that the Twisted Fate specifically is a fun champion to go against as the Renata, because if he's already whipped out a
Absolutely.
gold card or something, you can cause him to stun one of his teammates. There's
Yeah,
little
actually.
interactions in there you could try to go for, but it's nowhere near reliable enough to base your team composition around. I do think they have good targets to bail out, though. I think the Fiora and the
That's true.
Kha'Zix are both really going to be looking to dive on in, and they're both going to be a little bit on the squishier side as far as frontline champions for your team comp. So the ability to bail one of them out and make sure that they are going to be able to stay in the fight for a little bit longer, as well as the reset potential from just being able to burst somebody out on something like the Kha'Zix or the Fiora, plus the Ahri and the Kalista helping on out in the damage department, does make
Yeah.
this a pretty high damage composition. And if you kind of get the actions occurring in the right order, right? If you're kind of blowing up enemy champions one by one by one by one, then it becomes a lot easier to try to play on out this team fight. As we are getting into our in-client delay, we've got a little bit of additional time before we're going to get onto the Rift, but we do have playoff promo ready to show you guys. So we're going to transition on over to that. By the time we're done, hopefully, we're going to be ready to get onto Summoner's Rift. Constantly exceeding expectations, the Peach Cats are a squad built on the bedrock of the AoE Ginger Turmeric roster, who reached top 6 in 2022 Proving Grounds. But Wixie has been able to set up his fight lines, and Wixie is just running amok. He's going to reset onto Dardoch. Now he's got the attack speed. He's going to look for some more. This stacks infinitely now, TDS, as here comes Existence, flanking into the bottom side. It's a double kill. It's a triple kill over to Wixie, and now she's trying to run for it, but he gets stunned up by the gravity well. This is going to be a quadra kill for Wixie on the Jinx. Now regrouping a year later and rounding out with Onat and Isles, PC looks like one of the strongest teams in the ACL. With a top 6 finish locked in and having only dropped 3 games so far in the tournament, Peach Cats are looking to see just how far this run can go.
Charm there by Onat.
Great interrupt from Onat as Chad is getting focused down. He's going to have to flash back out to the ping brush, but here comes Existence in the middle of everybody, blows them up with the Soul Furnace, the double knockup from Isles, and put away the consoles, TDS, because it's PC gaming time.
Just like their proud eagle, Winthrop University has soared high and above the competition this season. 2 losses marks the only blemish on this stacked roster.
Shots to Olaf, and now Nemo has to run away in a bit of trouble and will go down as well. So Winthrop finds the response, knows who's the best in. Levitate still trying to go for the fight, but gets shut down.
From Denethor's stranglehold on the top lane island down to the deadly bot lane duo of Mobility and Shuki.
Just another taken disgusting play.
Winthrop have been crowned the top team in Collegiate, and with a trophy case already stacked with HughFest and 66 land titles, it's easy to see why. From the start, the goal has been simple: capturing Aegis Champions League glory, and nothing will stop them from turning destiny into a reality.
Welcome back, everybody. As we are in the loading screen, we will be on to Summoner's Rift in just a couple of seconds, but Peach Cats versus Winthrop University will be kicking off in just a few short seconds. Last notes on the team comps here, TDS. It feels like a really heavy fighty composition from the side of Peach Cats, but so much global power from the side of Winthrop.
Yeah, and it's a lot on how they are going to just make everything play around those global ultimates that can be really effective for them. Like, the more I looked at the composition from Peach Cats, I pretty much just came to the conclusion it's a pretty skill check kind of composition, that if you win, it will look great. If you lose, it'll look really weird, and that can be a bit kind of big risk that you're playing around with. But I'm excited to see the potential difference that some of these players are going to try and showcase with high-level mechanical champions like this ones. On the other side, their early level 1 can be really good, and I'm not saying this because I'm seeing 5 members going down to bot lane. It's because level 1, they have a lot of just point and click CC that they can play around with.
They do have quite a bit, and level 1 strength going to be coming in from Winthrop. They are going to send all 5 members into this bottom lane to kick things off, but it doesn't look like it's going to be any biting coming on through from the Peach Cats. They're going for a bit of a spread on the top side, staying even farther back on the bottom. They really do not want to risk running into anybody, and they will catch pretty much the whole team on this Tri-Brush ward.
Well, at the very least, they get a ward down in favor of themselves. Denethor gets the slight XP lead going against Safura, but I like the way that the side of pitch got spread for this. Level 1s are always weird situations, which I think teams should exploit more, but it's also important how you go proactively into the level 1 and how you go reactively into the level 1. And it seems like Pitch Cats read the situation knowing that there could be a 5-man level 1 going bot side because of how some of their level or CC abilities work out, and they prepped it out really well. That being said, they are not out of the danger just yet because there's members that are waiting on some of the bushes. They can be a bit scary for the Kalista and the Renata, but everything seems like it's going to start pretty normal with both junglers starting topside and potentially pathing for this bot lane.
That's going to be the focus, and really do expect Mobility and Chookies to try to take some early control in this bottom lane with that range advantage. Wixie already taking a couple of shots there and losing about a quarter of his HP for it. That's just only going to keep on happening when you're faced up against this kind of range disadvantage. I have to see how they try to navigate their way out of this, knowing how skilled this bot lane is. Surely they have a plan in place. Meanwhile, on the top side, Bo3 going to take level 2 first. They're going to find a nice trade up against Denethor, but there's the full combo on the bottom side, and Isles is just down for first blood. Winthrop University wastes no time in getting started.
And there goes the range plus CC value. If you chain everything up, you're going to get exploded. And it's just one bit of taste that everyone is going to get down there. Because it's not only this initial trade, it's also going to be when you add the gold card, when you add the Talia Seismic Shot, when you add the point and click CC from the Renekton, everything is just going to be much better eventually.
Much better indeed. And now, just coming out far ahead in the bottom lane. Mobility and Chookies going to be plenty happy to try to take their first reset here before too long and cash out, but they are going to stay in lane for the time being. So the gold lead not really going to fully manifest until they are able to spend some of it. As both the junglers now find themselves on the bottom side of the map. Isles going on in though, going to snag Chookies and pull him back, but the chain CC lands and Wixie takes the full brunt of the damage from Mobility and Chookies. He's going to find himself at 200 HP.
That ends up being a trade for flashes between Isles and Chookies, but they also blow the heal from Isles as well as from Mobility. And now Wixie with so much low, with a health bar so low, they probably cannot go as aggressive as they probably would like to. I like the decision there. Oh wait.
Comes Trickster, he's gonna get spotted and handshook back in, but he's gonna get pulled anyway. Isles gonna give one back there, and that is going to be another kill to the bottom lane of Winthrop University. Mobility and Chookies now going to share the wealth with Trickster, as Isles is just forced completely out of here, or Wixie rather.
Yeah, this bot lane is legitimate suffering. After that play, it's going to be even more harsh on the side of Wixie. And the biggest issue here, and it was something that I was going to mention from the previous aggressive play that came in from Isles. They needed to go for that sort of play, or maybe not needed, but they had to go for something similar because they are playing Kalista Renata. There's a bot lane that cannot get behind because we've seen situations where Renata tries to go for something or Kalista tries to go for something. They fall behind and they simply cannot contest at all in the continuation of the game. And that's something that will be really prevalent in the coming minutes. So now the fact that Kalista is essentially super far behind to the Caitlyn means that they will have no pressure down there in the bot lane. And now objectives, moving around the map, and even late game looks really scary for the side of Pitch Cats.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to have to turn around these fortunes as soon as they can. So far, Keel hasn't gotten the opportunity to get out of the map and influence anything. So pretty much dead even in the jungle farm department, dead even in mid. Bo3 building himself up a little bit of a lead up in the top lane. So maybe this top side is the path to success for the Peach Cats, but they're going to need more than a 10 CS lead. They're going to need to find a way to swing things back in their favor. Now, we're just 5 minutes in, so plenty of space left to find ways to play the game, but even still, Winthrop University keeping the wave on their side of the lane, just making it so hard for Isles and Wixie to play.
And the vision control as well is so much more in favor of the side of Winthrop. They not only have control of the lane in terms of how the push is going, but also not allowing to get vision for either the Kalista or the Renata means that Talia can just get in position and force a gang in favor of the side of Winthrop. Such a scary prospect, and it's something that I'm not sure how the side of Pitch Cats is going to try to react to this. I think that you're right, they probably need to put more pressure topside, because this bot lane feels like it's not going to find the value you're looking for.
Yeah. Wixie doing a good job of dodging as many abilities as possible to make sure he can stay in the lane. He can get a little bit of CS here and there. He can get some XP, but the Kalista, you want to be ahead. You want to try to find ways to be powerful coming into these Dragon skirmishes, and it's going to be just very tough to do that given where the matchup has found itself. But now, having gotten that mid push in, Keel and Onat are looking on this side of the map, at the very least trying to get themselves some vision, and it looks like Keel is going to end up finding Trickster on the bottom side. Keel gets pulled back in though, maybe fighting off more than he can chew as he's locked down and taken out. Mobility gets another kill on the jungler.
I love how each time we get a better showcase of why this composition is so dangerous. Because each member that decides to just appear in when there's no vision at all gets exploded immediately, and it's so well played by the side of Winthrop. They are not giving any inch, any opportunity for the side of Pitch Cats to try and come back. This game is becoming harsher and harsher on them because their scaling is not comparable to the side of Winthrop. The main shining light is that Moose Hater is doing really well, but he has lost the big CS gap that he had at one point, and it's not pushing the issue a lot in his favor, really.
Yeah, he hasn't cashed out with any turret plates, and really not going to be able to get that split push game plan online for quite a while here, as the first Dragon does go over to Winthrop. Now finding themselves 2,000 gold in the lead. Big trade comes through from Moose Hater and Denethor. They are brawling it out. The vitals get found by Moose Hater and keeps the health bars relatively even. Keel is looking in this Rift Herald pit. It's going to be up in about 20 seconds.
Yeah, they're trying to utilize the control that they do have over in top side, both in Dual King and also both in Moose Hater and also in Onat, to try and keep the push up and get control over the Rift Herald. And that's one of the places where they can probably try and be not only as proactive as possible, but that can net them enough gold to try and come back into the game. They probably won't be as contested this time around, but there is Twisted Fate coming into the lane, and also Talia with the ultimate. Ooh. Ultimate buff.
Grand challenge has to be thrown down from Moose Hater as Denethor gets a nice slice through the minions and finds himself face to face with the Fiora, who's very low on mana. It's going to be a recall coming on through from Moose Hater, but it does look like that Rift Herald was able to be secured by Keel. The isolated damage onto those big buffs on this Kha'Zix is nothing to be trifled with. Keel is able to secure that pretty fast. Now coming into mid lane, Sword forced to flash.
But I like this sort of play. Yes, you just get a flash, but you have to get something at one point. You have to force something in your favor, because with how the game is going, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities. So really nice force onto Sword, gets the flash out, and that means that a repeat gank can end up occurring, especially having the flash from the Ares still in your favor. As we see another fight top.
Yeah, items purchased by both top laners. They both just TP'd back. The trade will favor Moose Hater with or without access to that grand challenge. That's another binding, though, landed onto Isles. Every summoner has to come out just to keep the Renata alive. Ultimate down from Denethor, using the Dominus, flashes in, going in for the Ruthless Predator, and picks up the solo kill. Denethor takes down Moose Hater.
Yeah, and that is pretty much one of the last hopes for Pitch Cats, going really, really bad for them. Denethor getting the soul kill, forcing onto Moose Hater really effectively. And this all comes from previous trades. The ultimate being popped so proactively by Moose Hater ends up biting him back in the ass, because now Denethor able to utilize his ultimate proactively, gets the flash down and gets the soul kill. They also, oh, Wixie.
Sword into the bottom lane, going to guarantee the full combo onto Wixie. There's that targeted CC we're talking about, a guaranteed combo with the Taliyah.
Yeah, so talking about how the game is going reminds me of the Fear versus Mirage Alliance first game at this point, where the draft just feels really difficult to overcome, because a lot of the draft from the side of Pitch Cats depends on Kalista winning and then them having enough control that they can push the tempo really effectively. The problem now is that they don't have control anywhere. The only lane that is doing well is Onat, and they are gaining a lot of gold, don't get me wrong, this is nice. But Mobility gets 4 plates, 3 kills, close to a 20 CS lead, and there's no real answer for Mobility. And he's going to outrange everyone in the game.
You warned us that the Peach Cats could end up looking silly here, TDS, and that's pretty much what they look like right now. They are struggling across the board, finally just managing to dump a whole bunch of gold into Onat's Ahri, but he is going to have to do some miraculous stuff on this champion to be able to pull the team back in here. They do give him plenty of turret play gold. That gets split with Keel largely. And those two are just going to have to find multiple picks back to back to back, be able to pull themselves back into this game along with their team. It's another binding, connects onto Wixie. Jane CC'd up, gets bailed out, but will burn down. Mobility's on a rampage. Well, Peach Cats get one back on the top side. Isles trying to escape to the bottom lane, but Ace in the hole should be all it takes. One more auto. The shield is enough, but the light binding will take him out. Chookies gets the kill.
You know what? I respect the attempt at trying to escape there by Owls, but there was no hope there. The important part, because Bo3 needs a pretty repetitive story at this point. We've seen that kill happen time and time again. It's nothing new. The important part, though, it's what happened on the other side of the map. With Onat and Keel getting a counter kill onto the Talia is really crucial, because I was going to make this point. Yes, a lot of the gold is going into both Onat and Keel, but also when you look at the other side, a big chunk of the gold is on mobility. And who are the champions that can solo kill that Caitlyn? Those are the Ahri and the Kha'Zix. If they find a great angle, they can blow the Caitlyn up quickly enough that gold lead doesn't matter at all. And that's kind of the win condition that the side of Peach Cats need to look for in the continuation of the game.
Agree with you there. This Dragon number 2 is now on the board. Winthrop University sending down 4 members to get control over this side of the map. Keel and Onat both coming fresh off a recall as well. Keel did pick up that Yomu's Ghost Blade. It looks like he's trying to get his way into the river. He's going to find Sword. Jumps over, looking for the one-shot. Onat not quite in range. And the final spark going to chunk Keel to about half.
And with Keel as low as he is, there is the potential for Sword to come back, so I'm not sure if they can actually try and contest this Dragon, but they are pushing them back, so maybe it could be an opportunity for Peach Cats to finally find some angle to try and turn around the game. The position is kind of weird though, and it doesn't look like they are going to try and be proactive about trying to contest this Dragon.
Yeah, he is on Cleanse, so the spellbook not helping him out there, but he's just walking back and will have the Destiny before too long. No steal comes through, and Light Binding finds Keel once again. He gets blown up by mobility. Trickster takes a bunch of damage though and will be traded back. And now Onat leading the charge forward on towards Sword, waiting for that charm to come on across, but over the wall, mobility hits him with another headshot, and Onat's forced to retreat.
How the hell did Onat not die there is something I'm surprised. But at the end, it does turn into a favorable play for the side of Winthrop once again, because they do trade 1-for-1, but they get the Dragon as well. And another kill for the Caitlyn. This Caitlyn is becoming such a strong menace, and there's no real answers just yet once again to try and stop it. It's all on Onat and the Kha'Zix being able to kill her.
Definitely what needs to happen, and nobody really found their way on a mobility there. They take down Trickster instead, which they're happy to get something back, but the gold lead remains still, and Balloon's even further to about 4K. Here's the TP in from Onat. They're going to focus on towards mobility to hit him with the Fate's Call, trying to focus him down. The damage isn't coming through fast enough. Onat got distracted by Chookies, so it's going to be a 1-for-1. They do get the shutdown.
Yeah, and Winthrop is getting pummeled up there in the top lane. The trades between him and Denethor have been going the Renekton's way. Now Italia also close by, and the Twisted Fate teleporting in. They probably can collapse onto Keel. Keel has to be careful here.
Keel trying to get on out of there, does manage to avoid the seismic shove. Sword coming on in with that gold card. Moose Hater over the wall, wants to come in on the flank, but they are outnumbered and will not be able to contest this second Herald. It goes over to Trickster and continues to build up this gold lead for Winthrop. They maintain still at about 3K.
The control at this point of the game is so favored for the side of Winthrop. There's barely any space that this side of Peach Cats can try and utilize effectively to make the most out of the play. Oh no.
Full combo coming through on towards Moose Hater. He does have a little bit of time to dash back away, and he'll just keep lunging back towards the turret until he gets himself out of there. Will be forced out, but will stay alive. The bot lane for Peach Cats have transitioned up to mid to try to focus down this turret.
The trap was timed not in the best manner. Oh, Denethor. Oh no.
A lot of focus coming through onto Wixie. He's got the bailout onto him. Going to be able to flash away, but Isles will go down. Another kill to Denethor as they move in towards that river. And top turret going to fall to mobility. Everywhere mobility steps, a turret falls. And 4K in the lead are Winthrop.
That has to be one of the saddest plays that you can look at from the side of Pitch Cats. They just get collapsed on the side. Weeksy and Isles that hasn't had the best of games just get controlled and they die immediately. As Kill is just getting collapsed on once again.
Too much damage coming through on Akil. He will end up going down. The teleport in from Sword will be enough to collapse.
Okay.
Chookies will fall to the Grand Challenge, but Moose Hater does not have enough healing to keep the fight going. It's a 2-for-1. It favors Winthrop, as they all do.
And at this point, it's just a consistent slew of desperation plays coming in from Pitch Cats. They realize that their composition is not at a point where they can actually try and fight for the game. They're just trying to commit multiple Hail Marys to a certain degree to see what sticks on the wall, to see what actually works out effectively for them. But they're just getting counter collapsed on and punished immediately, and Winthrop is just managing the game out way better. Their composition already was a really smart approach onto the skill check comp from the side of Pitch Cats, but so far they've also been smarter about how they approach the game, and they are not giving any inches once again to the side of Pitch Cats.
Definitely not giving very many chances to the blue side in this game. Draft's working out magnificently for them. Peach Cats do not appear done quite yet. They're sending both Keel and Isles up towards this top side, looking at Sword. Keel does have quite a bit of damage in the tank, and he can find him. Handshake comes out, flashed away from Sword.
Oh no, and now gets stunned there. There's no one to collapse on, but another play that doesn't work out as effectively, and with the Repair on the side, they have to be extra careful about their Renekton. Close by, able to try and collapse on you and get a lot of damage onto you. Rip Herald going to get a second crash as well. Oh no.
Play finding connects onto Onat. He's dead. He has no chance. And more turrets going to fall to Winthrop. They get the inner as well. All outers down. Full control over the map to the Eagles as they move on down towards the bottom side. 4 members cutting off Moose Hater. What can he do to try to escape this? But there's the chain CC once again, chased down by Denethor. Ace in the hole connects for mobility, and Winthrop take out another.
Don't you love point and click CC, where you pretty much have no choice but to just take the CC into your face and then die because no one can save you? Isn't that the best? And Moose Hater has been suffering this all game long. But the problem is that at the point where Moose Hater was winning the lane, everything else was kind of collapsing. And at this point, it just feels like the house already burned down, and you're just watching even the ground burn down.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire, to be certain. So we've got ourselves a little bit of a pause coming on through here. Does look like a DC may have occurred somewhere or other. So you say that's playing in person, Diff, a little bit. I assume the Winthrop squad are all on campus at this time. Although it's getting close to the holidays. Who's to say? I don't know what their academic schedule looks like. But does mean that we've got ourselves a little bit of a break in the action where Winthrop are shellacking this game, TDS.
Yep. And that is why, I wanted to hold myself a bit when talking about Winthrop. I will keep saying this. I was coming in believing Pitch Cats was a favorite, and I did vote Pitch Cats. But Winthrop doesn't get the respect they deserve me first, and it's been consistently they showcase that they have a lot of good tools to try and answer into multiple teams. And they are finding ways to shut down Pitch Cats. I think that Pitch Cats disrespected them quite a bit in the draft, and Winthrop punish them so accordingly. Like the composition from Pitch Cats, once again, depended on skill checks, and a lot of their comp was short range. So if they fall behind, every bit of the composition from Winthrop that has longer range, apart from maybe their Renekton, was going to suffer, and they are suffering so much as soon as the first blood came through.
Yeah, really been a tough experience in this game for the Peach Cats. And I agree. I think a lot of it starts at the draft. I think that coming into game number 2, there's definitely a lot of changes you can make here as the Peach Cats. They're a squad that really is willing to go for these kind of off-the-wall picks, right? Keel playing all sorts of crazy junglers. He's gotten some Evelyn games in here. He's got some Karthus games, some Bel'Veth, some Ivern. You know, he'll play anything that he can get his hands on. And Moose Hater as well, right? The Zac games. He's been playing the Garen, the Malphite. Let's do a little trivia game here, TDS. Who do you think is the most banned champion up against the Peach Cats?
That's actually interesting. Before I would have said Jinx, but I think at this point it's probably, I think it's Jarvan actually. I think kills Jarvan. It's probably
it's a lot more straightforward than that. It's the Garen. Having
It's
been
actually
banned
yeah.
11 times against them in the regular season. Next up is Talia at 5. So, I mean, people really feel the need to focus in towards the top lane
Understandable.
champion pool and this kind
Yep.
of off the wall stuff that they have a tendency to go for. So I mean, it's worked for them all season long, right? They are
Yeah.
one of the they were one of the winningest teams in the ACL. But clearly, this game, the priority on the Callista, saving the jungle and top picks for the second half, it just does not appear to have worked out in their favor.
Yeah, and the main thing that I feel like kind of impacted more the situation here was the fact that the Kalista just got completely dumped in the lane. Like, even if she didn't die at level 1, she pretty much lost control of the lane. And that's where Kalista shines, controlling the lane, getting threat down there in the bot side, and then controlling objectives. She lost all of that, and then you're kind of depending on what happens on the other side of the map. But Onad continuously pushed the Twisted Fate really well, but it never netted them enough gold that it actually mattered. And then you have what happened top lane. Moonfader never really pushed the lead as far as possible, and then he just got equaled out and solo killed.
Exactly, as we are back onto the Rift. Got that pause over and dealt with. A reconnect has come on through, and Trickster working to secure Dragon number 3 will do so single-handedly. Little objective bounty in their pockets up on the top side. So you get the old post-pause freeze.
Yep.
Wonder if that'll get fixed in 2024.
Well, wonder if we will get a new client by 2024. It's been there since who knows when, and nope, never actually fixed or looked at than the pause that has been happening for so consistently. I'd hold my hopes for that before that ends up happening. What I won't hold is the fact that Pitch Cats is in a really dire spot, and at this point I'm just kind of scared for what they can try and accomplish, and I'm more so looking at what the plan may be going into game 2 potentially.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right, to be 19 minutes into game 1 already thinking about game number 2. But that really is very close to where the Peach Cats find themselves here. Looking like they are just running out of options. It's still going to all be on Keel and Onat finding these picks, blowing up. It's got to be to Caitlyn at this point. If Caitlyn stays alive, Caitlyn's going to kill your whole team. She's nearly on 3 items here at 20 minutes in. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Meanwhile, Trickster collapsing on towards Onat. Not going to be able to make those picks if you are caught out. Forced to expend the flash. And yeah, that's just another tool that you were going to use to make the picks, instead of having to be blown defensively just to stay alive.
Oh, wait.
Heal coming in on the side, handshake back in, focused in on a Trickster. Trickster melting down very fast, but Sword is going to be able to save him. No longer isolated thanks to the Destiny, and Keel forced to retreat. Isles now caught out, pulled back in from the Fate's Call, and Isles gets snagged once again. That's going to be the light finding its way onto Wixie, and Sword will pick up the kill. Winthrop find their man eventually.
And this is the thing, though. We are asking for picks for the side of Pitch Cat so that they can try and turn around the game, right? But the problem is that they get picked on themselves, because one thing that Winthrop has been doing really well as well, apart from getting the lead and not letting it go, is playing around mobility. They realize that mobility is the only member, as we see Isles potentially dying here, or...
Oh, yeah.
Actually, wait, Sword?
They don't actually manage to put the damage through in time. Okay. This is the Everfrost and a rapid fire cannon build, so this Twisted Fate does not have a lot of damage. He's got Chookies for the backup and dodged out on the light bind, and Keel will be able to stay alive. But again, every resource the Peach Cats have, it has to be blown defensively. It has to be blown to avoid getting picked off and killed. And there's another light binding on towards Onat. He's going to be forced to dash backwards. Chookie's falling low, but stays alive and will complete the recall.
That pretty much sums up the state of the game. Not even Chuki's dies there in that point where they are coursing onto the Lux, really unluckily there. But going back a bit to the point I wanted to make with why Pitch Cats have been really difficult for them to try and find picks onto mobility, and it's the fact that they've been playing around mobility so well on the side of Winthrop. Really disciplined, understanding that he's your win condition. He is the one that is 8-1 at this point, so you just play around him, leave enough vision that he's not going to get picked up, and have at the very least 1 or 2 members shadowing him. With mobility being this protected, there's never an opportunity to actually kill the Caitlyn, because he's always going to be protected by the team, and the smart approach that they are having is really, really good. Although, look at this play that they are trying to cook up. Oh no, they see Keel.
Keel lurking around, but spotted. Oh my
He's
god,
dead.
look at
He's
that
dead.
headshot damage. Keel nearly goes down. Onat has to tank the ace in the hole for
Oh
him.
no.
And Mobility and Shookies will just keep marching down this lane. They do not care how many assassins they find along the way.
Yeah, the real assassin is Caitlyn, actually. Oh, Keel!
Possible takeover, connects onto 2. Keel taken incredibly low. He's going to have to head out of this fight with the remaining 3 members going to try to brawl in that choke point. That was the best hostile takeover you're going to get up against this team comp, and it did not accomplish much. An objective bounty found across the map by Moose Hater, but equalized by an inner turret on top. And not slowing down on this push. Winthrop are going to keep using their Baron to its fullest. They chunk Keel to half, and they do not have to stop.
Yeah, the wave clear is not going to be good enough from the side of Pitchcats to try and stop this push. And Moose Hater may try to win with the split push, but the split push needs to, at the very least, have a bit more firepower behind it, because if you're Ashe's taking just 1 turret, all of the base is falling down on the side.
Collapsing everywhere, every structure going down. Doesn't seem like Moose Hater's finding himself a little bit in the side lanes, getting them a little bit of gold back, but their base is in shambles. What opportunities are they going to have to take advantage of these turrets? Still, nobody recalling from Winthrop quite yet. 3 turrets for Moose Hater. Better than nothing. But will you be able to turn that into a winning situation? That's where I get real concerned for the Peach Cats.
Well, I do think, though, that at the very least they've been able to slow the game down enough that they can try and hold on for dear life. It's not... they were going to lose the turret anyway, it feels like, just because of how the game was going, and the base was going to be broken anyway as well. Wixie needs to jump over this wall. If not, he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of objective bounties. Uh-oh.
No,
All right. Onat gets out, although here's the TF ultimate. They know where everybody is. Wixie gonna cleanse right away. Here comes Trickster for the backup. Wixie is melting. He's bailed out, but doesn't have the damage to succeed. He will go down. It's a 5 versus 4, and Winthrop could look for the push right now.
What a nice way of Winthrop to say to Wixie just, okay, we know you're hyped up, but we are closer to the NCL than you are, and Mobility is making sure that he also gets another chance. As we see the engage, but it's not going to pan out into anything. Another teleport coming through as well.
Yeah, they're bringing back Sword, fresh off of regenning his health up to full. He's got the flash. He's looking around for somebody to gold card, and it's going to be Onat. The CC is just unstoppable. They kill him twice. He gets no chance even with the bailout. And now moving forward is Moose Hater. He's going to get chunked out as well. Keel forced out of the fight. Hostile takeover does nothing as the snipe from the ace in the hole takes Keel off the map. 5 versus 3. Winthrop University looking to close out game number 1. Teleport coming back in from Denethor. The resources are never ending as Isles flashes back in, going for the last ditch effort while Denethor works his way onto the base. The knockups will connect, but the damage is just too heavy and nobody's touched Mobility. Winthrop University with a dominant game number 1.
You just have to take your hat off and clap to Winthrop. That was such a well-played game from start to finish. From draft phase until the end of the game. So well done in general, and you have to give the props all around. I want to bring this up again. I was giving props initially to the side of Pitchcats from both from players and the side of the coaching staff. But you have to give props here to both the players and the coaching staff from the side of Winthrop, because from the draft phase they had a clear plan, clear answer onto what they wanted to do for against Pitchcats, and they realized the disrespect that was kind of given from Pitchcats in draft, and they just came back really effectively. Huge props to them with how they played, and now looking into game 2, they need to find a way to turn around this, because going down a game is not an easy task in a BO3. And with how this game kind of went, you can just see Winthrop riding the, what is it called, the consistency, the hype. I forgot the word, but like I forgot the actual word. Damn second language.
Either way,
Yeah.
is
I
looking like
remember.
it is time to turn things back around here for the Peach Cats. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not out of hope just yet here.
Yeah, no.
TDS is there. This is a draft gap. I mean, I'm willing to say draft gap here,
Yep.
as there is a lot of opportunity to try to fix things here for the Peach Cats. Go for a different composition. not get blown out through the bot lane so early on and try to kind of play the gate play style that they really want to here. But yeah, certainly not the most favorable way to start off your series. And Winthrop, you've got to be feeling very good coming into game number 2, fresh off of how well they were able to do here in this first one.
Yeah, they have to ride the wave, see how they can play. And if they get another good draft like this, I can see them just taking the series. They are playing really well so far. And now we have to begin asking the question, depending on how this next game goes, right? If Winthrop 2-0's Pitch Cats, do they turn into tournament favorites? I feel like you have to begin to look into that going forward in the ACL playoffs, because Pitch Cats was seen as that, right?
I think a lot of people would already say that they're some of the favorites. There's
Fair enough.
definitely some diehard throppers out
Yeah.
here who really think that this team has what it takes, and they're really
And it's
showing it, at
fair.
least so far in this series. So we're gonna throw it to a quick break here while we get in the draft for game number 2, but we're gonna be back very shortly as Peach Cats try to turn things around back up against Winthrop. Welcome back, everybody, to the Aegis Champions League, where Peach Cats and Winthrop University are going to game number 2. The Peach Cats find themselves up 1-2 or down 0-1. Winthrop University finds themselves up 1-0. I just can't speak tonight. TDS is we're getting ready to get into this second draft here.
It is a confusing night because Winthrop already winning the first game was kind of expected coming into tonight. Well, maybe not for everyone. There, like you were mentioning, there's Winthrop believers out there that thought Winthrop was going to win this really easily. So maybe for them it wasn't that weird, but for a lot of people it was. And now that Pitch Cats has their back against the wall, what are they going to try and opt into to turn around the series? They went into red side this time around, it seems, and that's kind of the easiest thing to try and fix the draft side. Now, what are they going to try and look into? I think priority from Kalista should fall down first and foremost.
Yeah, definitely agree. Or if you're going to go for the Callista, you're going to have to try to go for some kind of engaged duo alongside it, or save yourself that Renata pick until later. Try to make a lane matchup that isn't as one-sided as the Caitlyn Lux matchup ended up being in game number 1. As draft is getting started here, we got bans coming on through. The Garen going to remain banned for Winthrop, and there's going to be the Rel and the Orianna taken off the board as well.
Taking a pretty similar approach to the previous game, adding the Taliyah onto the mix, which I think is a smart idea. I think Taliyah is an underrated champion in terms of what she can accomplish and how much value she has, plus the fact that there's way too many dashes in the game right now, so her workaround, it's really amazing to try and stop that from being a big menace. As we see the remaining bans coming through, and a lot of the previous game didn't change in terms of bans, but the Renata being added to the mix, I feel like it kind of already kills the Kalista by itself. As the Barriers gets picked, I'm expecting maybe something similar to the Caitlyn or Saya that was left unnoticed in the previous game.
Yeah, the Varus going to be the pick for mobility this time around, so definitely going for a little bit of a different look this time with what's been already banned away, and knowing that the Renata is not going to be on the table for the Peach Cats. Could go for something like that Caitlyn Lux now on the other side if that's what they crave, but instead the Jarvan going to be the lock-in for Keel. So taking a little bit more of a traditional jungler this time around, and then this Nico that was banned away in game number 1 could be huge for Onat, and it's going to get locked in for a little bit of a wombo combo team fighty mid-jungle duo.
And I like the aggressive approach here, opting into two champions that can mess up with immobile champions on the other side. So going against the Barrier is going to be really effective. The area being covered, and Sword is a player that does play the area to a certain degree, can be really good to try and push the Nico in a safe manner, and then try and follow up on picks if you're able to find them. Also, mid lane wise, shouldn't suffer as much because of her multiple dashes, so it's kind of difficult to try and pin or hold her down for as long as possible. And I'm guessing they're going to opt into the jungle matchup here to try and not get anything banned away. It's going to be the Viego, so really good carry in the jungle for themselves.
Yeah, going for a little bit more of a carry style for Trickster this time around. I mean, he was on the Taliyah in game number 1, was pretty successful there as well. They're going to snag away that Ahri, knowing that it's going to be the matchup into the Nico. A Kaisa blind for Wixie would be an interesting selection here. I'm sure that the Peach Cats want to save their top lane counter pick for last, and they decide that the AD is what they want to blind. They're going to be subject to top and support bans now. Meanwhile, over on the other side, it's the exact same picks. So top and support are going to be the roles to be on the lookout for without too many flex picks available.
And not a lot of champions going to be flexed around weirdly, which means that we pretty much know what should be banned or what should be focused. The Kaisa here, not necessarily that bad of an option, and it does enable something like a Blitzcrank to end up coming in, because it is a champion that you can play around with the hooks, messes up a lot of the potential plays from the enemy team, but it also can end up messing you up if you're not careful enough. As we see the remaining bans coming through, a lot of top lane focus, Renekton and the Sack band away. I'm expecting to see something more up there in the top side, or maybe a ban away from Rakan or one of those champions that do feel really consistent in terms of their engage. Maybe something like the Milio as well, potentially for the Varus.
Yeah, completely agree there. As I think the Blitzcrank could really be a pick here on the table for Isles. I mean, he's played it or had it banned against him quite a bit so far in this season. I don't think he's actually gotten a game on it quite yet, but I think it's quite effective up against some of the immobile carries like the Varus.
Yep.
Could see what exactly the selection is going to be. The classic Nautilus, of course. Still
And
something that's on the table. There's the Blitzcrank ban. They're listening to us, CDS. They're taking the draft strategies directly from the stream. So going to have to be something else now for Isles. He's a fan of the Nautilus for sure. He also plays stuff like the Alistair. I think one of those would be unsurprising, but it will be the Rakan this time around.
Yeah, and the Rakan is not necessarily a bad choice. It's a champion that everyone loves to play, engages really well with the Jarvan, has a lot of follow-up in the form of the Nico as well, and the Kaisa does want to go to the backline, so I feel like the idea, or comp-wise, it does fit really well with the theme that they were already drafting. The problem is that, once again, it does feel like if they don't find the value early on with this sort of champions, or maybe not early on, but mid-game wise, then they can fall into a really weird pit later on. The Nautilus going to be the follow-up, really nice stuff that can engage point and click as well for the Kaisa. And I think that Winthrop, with how they've been playing the Nautilus, does fit really nice into trying to play Mei. And I feel like for top lane, you can go for something safer. You don't need to go for something as aggressive as the Fiora. Ornn is still a viable option. Could be a Jax as well, if you feel like you want to play the carry, but not necessarily force into a lot of weird spots, and it's going to be the Jax. And now it's on Hater to try and counter here. What weird pick does he have to counter here? Or do you go for the skill check matchup in the form of the Fiora once again?
That's going to be the question, right? Does he want to run back the Fiora here and just try to take that one-on-one? His Zac and his Garen are both banned away. The other thing to be on the lookout for could be that Malphite. He's played the Malphite a lot,
nice.
And this is kind of a big wombo combo team fighty composition already. I don't hate the Poppy here at all, though. I really like the Poppy.
Yep.
Specifically, and I know I believe I said this on the same stream last week, but I'm going to say it again. The Poppy is especially good up against these kinds of champions that have committal dashes. If you lock yourself into an animation where you're going to be dashing and it's in a long enough time span that it's easy to react to, Poppy is so good into those sorts of situations, and there's a lot of them here.
Yep.
The Jax with the long leap strike, the Viego when he starts channeling that Maw, or the Nautilus when he lands a dredge line. All of those are going to force you into dashes, and all of those can be reacted to by Hater to interrupt it, ground you, deal a little bit of damage, and get the whole team ready to pounce.
100%. I love the Poppy pick here. We saw how effective it was last week, played by Alarim. Namely, Alarim is a much more burst Poppy player. He plays the champion really consistently and
He's
has
a big
been able
Poppy
to
guy,
deliver.
yeah.
Yeah, he delivers a lot on the Poppy, so no surprise there. But in this game, I can see the value of the Poppy being really high. Like you're mentioning, a lot of dashes that can't end up getting stopped consistently. And I do think that for what the team needed, Bitch Cats already had a lot of damage, so you need something to enable the rest of the team to find a lot of value, and the Poppy is just that. You play off of creating space for your team and then finding the big engages that your team needs to try and just play the game really effectively. And she also synergizes really nicely with the Jarvan thanks to the Cataclysm creating walls, so there's always mechanics that you can play around with that can be really valuable for the side of Bitch Cats. So I quite like their composition much more compared to the previous game, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely do as well. I think they're a lot more evenly matched this time around, and it's way easier to see what they're going for on both sides. And it's not going to be decided at like level 3. I think is the most important thing here. That was a big problem with game number 1. Is it kind of like it became real obvious who was going to win like 10 minutes into the game, or even earlier than that. It was really one-sided 5 minutes into the game, frankly,
Yep.
and that's never the most fun to be able to watch. So I think both of these teams have outs. Both of these teams have scaling options. They both have team fighting approaches. So short of one team completely running it in the early game and falling massively behind, it feels like both teams are going to have outs to play out this game in a little bit more even of a fashion than what we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, hopefully that ends up being a bit more the case here. And I think that for Pitch Cats, trying to go back a bit to how the expectations were and how everything kind of worked out for Pitch Cats going into the season, it was a lot on them getting not necessarily early leads, but playing around the great team fighting of Wixie. If Wixie is put in a bad spot from the get-go, you lose out on your hyper carry being able to deliver on team fights. And that's exactly what Pitch Cats need to correct this game. You have a Wixie on a really good hyper carry that can play teamfights really effectively, has self-build, so you don't need to essentially focus a lot on himself. And then you also get tools to play around his build. Like, he doesn't need to go one hit, he doesn't need to go 80 this particular game, he can go AP if he wants to, a bit of a mix as well. So overall, there's a lot of variations that Wixie has for this game, but I like the fact that he can play for himself and try and carry the game, something that Pitch Cats have been playing consistently all season long.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that pop-off potential with the Kaisa, but I think he could also just kind of play this as a really more straightforward, kind of front-to-back team fighty style,
well.
right? You've got some really great engage tools with this Jarvan and Rakan. Great follow-up there from the Nico and the Poppy as well to keep them held down. Poppy and Jarvan is a really powerful combo, being able to guarantee the stun when somebody's stuck in the Cataclysm. Nico able to guarantee lots of targets for the Pop Blossom as well. And as long as all 4 of these members are holding people in place for you, you can just keep picking them on off if you are this Kaisa. So a really good team fight setup for Wixie. This is the kind of composition where you end up picking up huge multi-kills just because nobody else is really there to deal the last bits of damage.
Yeah, and also another factor that I do think for Wixie and for the Kai'Sa this game is going to be really nice is the fact that you're going against a Varus. Not the most mobile of champions, so if you're able to follow up on any sort of engage or get onto the backline, you can commit immediately, kill the Varus, and the Varus will not have a lot of choices to try and escape the fight there. So I like the fact that you have those choices for Wixie this game, and then there's carries that you can kill effectively. Like no one is going to be a hyper tank on the side of Winthrop. There is an Nautilus that can be a bit tankier but not unkillable, and then the Jax that, apart from the Counter Strike and maybe a bit of armor built in Sonya's and other slide items, there's not a lot of choices to try and stop the Kai'Sa from being able to kill you. I think that that works really well really well for Wixie to try and carry the game out. But there's a lot of focus on the bot lane. I want to go on the other side of the map because in the previous game, we saw Denethor and Moose Hater go kind of head to head, bashing heads quite a lot of the game. And the clear picture was Denethor. He solo killed Moose Hater, never lost a lot or a big chunk or a big play up there in the top lane. And then when the team needed him, he was ready there to fight a lot of these situations. So I think this time around, there needs to be a step up coming in from Moose Hater.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the lookout for that as well. He's in a little bit more of a supportive role this time around with the Poppy, but he did get the counter pick of his choice, and I want to see him at least be able to go even in this Jax matchup and be able to provide value later on in the game because we know how powerful this Jax can be. I'm recalling a Lotus Exiles stream we had earlier where Lawrence was able to just completely pop off on the Jax. We've seen how powerful this pick can be, and Denethor definitely the kind of player who it's very dangerous to have in their hands. I do want to look towards bot lane again, though, just because I encourage our audience to not flip-flop too hard on this bot lane matchup based off of game number one. Game number one was a really big draft gap, I think, in the bot lane in particular. I don't think there were very many options for Wixie and Isles on the Callista and the Renata, and I do still think that these two are just such talented players. They're such a talented duo. They've been some of the best in the ACL all season long. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one or both of them on our all-star list as we get towards the end of the season. Mobility and Chookies showing that they have what it takes to go toe-to-toe, but I wouldn't quite write off Wixie and Isles based on that game number one performance. I do also want to take a moment while we're loading on in to shout out Coachify. Coachify is a commission-free esports coaching platform currently in open beta. You can become a coach today. You can track your students, inspire them to succeed, and turn your passion into a career. Click on the panel located below the stream to check out their website for more information. And thank you once again to Coachify for sponsoring the ACL this season.
A lot of value coming in from Coachify. I need to put like a big logo of Coachify behind myself so that I can point to it whenever we're doing the ad reads. That way we can maximize the value. Works out every time.
Yeah, it's we'll reinvest. We'll reinvent new ways of doing the sponsor reads coming in the next season. That's not a promise, but is an idea floating around. So we'll see. We'll see who can convince us to go one way or the other as we get on into that loading screen. I'm very, very excited, though, for this game number 2. I think this is going to be a lot closer. I think the Peach Cats are going to show a little bit more of what most of their season has looked like so far. As they've now taken their 4th loss. Winthrop's still on only 2. So Winthrop's still keeping that undefeated streak in playoffs specifically alive, by the way. They have not lost a game since way back in the regular season. They are on a hell of a tear in this ACL playoff so far.
And I want to quickly confirm who the team that took off their game was, just quickly, because it's something surprising actually to see it come through like that. And I'm kind of curious if it was the normal a normal game or if it was an FF for who knows why.
Let me take
Quickly
a look.
checking.
Yeah, I'm checking as well.
Okay, they lost a 2-1 against Mirage Alliance Developmental, which got eliminated already from playoffs. So actually kind of interesting how everything developed after that.
I can see that. Mirage Alliance Developmental was a very talented squad. They had Levitate and Snow on that team from the Team Ambition bot lane or the TikTok Tony top bot lane, depending on which split you're talking about. There's some really talented players there. I'm not surprised to see that they were able to end up coming on up with some wins there, but going to be, or at least they've managed to restabilize themselves entirely since then, as it does appear like we've loaded on into the game. So let's get on in here. Game number 2 between Peach Cats and Winthrop University kicking off right now.
And as we're going in, sadly, there's not going to be a smart level 1 or anything like that. It's going to be just a staring contest that everyone knows and loves. Although, wait, maybe actually onto... They could actually collapse here onto Onet a bit and try and get a bit of value.
Yeah, getting a little bit of damage through. Now going to just be recalls across the board. 5 people are recalling just in mid lane. And 50 seconds into the game after having exchanged a couple of blows. One of those corrupting potion charges was chugged by Sword, so you definitely want to swap those out, and Oracle's Lens has picked it up.
Yeah, there's going to be Vision Denial that it's going to be played around with by the junglers. Interestingly enough, though, now that Kill does have the lens, probably going to clear it, but there was Vision inside of the enemy jungle for the side of Winthrop, whereas there's no Vision inside of the enemy jungle for Pitch Cats, which means that they don't know exactly where the Trickster can try and start the game. They probably guess that it's on the top side, but this is some sort of information advantage that you can try and maximize value on.
Yeah, Onet already going for some shenanigans early on. I don't think that matters too much that he's in there with the mid wave. They are going to trade back and forth. Grand Entrance doesn't connect from Isles, actually. So not going to get the full damage trade they were hoping for. Wixie going to end up on the rough side of that one. As, again, the bot lane's a lot more evenly matched. Already looking to start the fights here at level 1 as they brawl for level 2.
And another engage there by Isles that doesn't work out. Insta flash. Isles has been way too aggressive here.
Yeah, he's getting stunned up here once again. Rooted, hooked back in, and first blood to the Winthrop University bot lane for the 2nd game in a row. Mobility and Chookies are unstoppable.
Yeah, they are not getting stopped, but a lot of that is on Isles. He commits repeatedly onto the fight when he has no escape, and that ends up biting him in the ass, as we see as well. Moose Hater ends up having to blow the flash because he's not level 2 currently, and already 2 places the map where there's an advantage for the side of Winthrop once again.
Winthrop University are just out-laning the Peach Cats, the collegiate squad, coming up huge in these early games. Now Onat looking to try to equalize in the mid lane, gets a nice Tangle Barbs onto Sword, and will chunk him out in this early laning phase. And if I'm Keel and Onat right now, you're gonna have to join hands and find a way to carry this team, because these side lanes are not going according to plan.
I will say though, for a much better part for this game is the fact that Wix is not on Kalista, so he can try and farm. He didn't blow anything up, neither cleanse nor flash, and he's been farming by himself pretty effectively. So Wixie, at the very least, is still in a fine enough spot that it's not going to be the worst situation possible.
Definitely not. Already Trickster paying a visit down bot. He does get spotted by that ward, so I don't think anything's going to break on out here. Keel arriving to the bottom lane, but a little outgunned here in that 3-on-3. Will decide to give it up. Instead, path up towards the top side. He's still hanging around, though.
And he's waiting down there. They know that there could be a potential play just because of where Jarvan was kind of waiting. He's actually going on the side, so they could actually try and attack Trickster that is not waiting for the Jarvan here. Well, actually, no, because Onat is backing, so... Wait. Look at bot side. They're trying to cook something up. I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what Bro's cooking down here. Keel pays a visit to the red buff that he knew wasn't there because Trickster was wearing it. And now has arrived at the bot lane Tri-Brush, but the push means that he's not going to be able to find much. Meanwhile, Denethor getting a fat trade on the Moose Hater, and there's the expiration, a solo kill for Denethor. Side lane domination from Winthrop University.
Both side lanes are just dumping on the side of Pitch Cats. Denethor with the solo kill. Then on the bot side, you have mobility with the first blood as well. Everything is just working out so well for the side of Winthrop, and we may have one of the biggest upsets in the making if this keeps itself up. Oh, Trickster maybe collapsed on, but he's not going to be in that much of trouble.
Yeah, going in for the flash. They do get the full combo. Trickster forced to flash away. Now Denethor might be up a little bit far. The hammer shock still deals damage through them, but they are both able to dash on out, sinking up there as both Trickster and Denethor will retreat backwards. And you know, you're going to get a little bit of CS denial onto Denethor, but not much else to be found for the Peach Cats.
Yeah, this is just becoming pretty fatal for the side of Pitch Cats because they don't find anything. They commit the flash from kill, but don't get a kill. The Viego just flashes away. He has a CS lead. Oh, Isles. Not much here.
Isles again forced to back away as Chookies continues to look for some action on those dredge lines. I do think the mid lane is going very well for Onat, so that's going to be something that Peach Cats can look to play through. I'm sounding like myself in game number 1 already. Isles misses the grand entrance again. Not his night so far.
Is Isles playing from Oceania? Because that is a bit of a weird sequence of events that we've seen from Isles so far. It's not his night like you're mentioning. There's still time to see the Isles that everyone knows and love and engage and find the great plays. But like you're mentioning, this feeling like a bit comparable to the first game where everything kind of fell onto Onat. And Onat is winning lane, yes, but everything else is just burning up.
Absolutely here. Neither of these teams will be eliminated tonight. Everybody at this stage is guaranteed a best of 5. But this is a rough look coming in up against Winthrop as Isles gets engaged on once again, trying to escape. Wixie going to have to flash on away, gives him the additional distance with the battle dance. And Isles will be able to get out of there. Still constant pressure on the bot lane. Mainly focusing towards getting mobility ahead. 2 games in a row now, and it's working out fantastically.
And a matchup that we were kind of hyping up because of how both of these players have been both in the NECL, have been able to play for academy level rosters, and they so far were performing really well in the season in ACL. It's mobility that has gotten more value so far tonight, and a lot of that is on the team playing much better around him. But also you have to see that there's more pressure coming in from the bot side. And a lot of that is because Kill cannot find an angle to provide more value for Wixie. Like, he hasn't been able to find angles to try and gang the bot lane, because so far this series, bot lane has been going behind really early on, and then when you want to find an opportunity for you to go for a gang, it's just in a horrible spot, and Kill cannot find a good angle.
And he's going for mad scientist stuff to try to make these bot lane ganks work. He's got a Frankenstein's monster of jungle pathing going in through to try to find his way through the tri-brush and make an early game gank happen, and it's not happening, TDS. Mobility and Chookies are dominating this bottom side, and there's nothing that Keel's been able to put together to put a stop to it.
The jungle matchup has been really weird because it just feels like it's not... I wouldn't blame Kill for this. I just feel like it's an after effect of how the game evolved. And it's really difficult for Kill to look for these angles. Like, obviously, you always kind of look into the jungle and say, why didn't the jungle do more here? But it just feels like Kill doesn't have that opportunity. Oh, Isles.
Isles finding himself caught in by the pink brush, but that's a nice 3-man pop blossom followed up by the Cataclysm. Keel focusing down Trickster will be able to pick up the first kill for Peach Cats as Sword is out of mana and forced to retreat. The Peach Cats off a big ultimate from Onat get themselves on the board.
And a huge team fight victory there for the side of Pitch Cats. They needed something, not desperately, but effectively at this point because they didn't have a lot of gold all around themselves. But Onat finds so much value thanks to the Nico ultimate. And this is one of the biggest difference compared to the previous game with the Ahri.
Yeah, Onat having a fantastic game in number 2 so far. Charm connects though. Onat is not tanking turret quite yet. Now he is. He's going to be forced to flash away. Sword going to flash in turn. Looking to chase him down. But without the Spirit Rush, I just don't think he's going to be able to catch the Chameleon. Onat manages to escape.
If Chuki's committed a flash there, maybe with the dredge line, you probably can expect them to get the kill. But I'm not sure if it's a commitment you're willing to make at that point. It ends up being a flash for flash though, actually, because Sword did commit his flash. And Onat didn't die. So overall, the value in favor of Pitch Cats. Maybe a fight here. Isles needs to be careful.
Ooh, that was very close with the dredge line. Quick on the fingers. Isles able to battle dance his way back over the wall and get out to safety. It's actually a faint and gold lead for the Peach Cats, thanks to the lead that's been built up by Onat in the mid lane. In addition to, keeping even across the board. Was really rough in the early game for the side of Moose Hater as well as for Wixie and Isles, but they've been able to keep competitive in CS, not end up bleeding out too much, and gives them a very even state coming into this game.
And it feels like a lot of that comes in from the difference in composition. Last game, it was kind of a comp there that if you fall behind, it's really doomed for yourself. but this time around they do have a comp that has more outs, especially come mid game, and I think that they have more tools to try and play around with it. Also, having a team fighter in the form of the Nico instead of the Ari makes it so that you can play team fights a little bit more effectively, and also that if someone commits overly towards you, like we saw in the Rift Herald fight, then they are going to get punished by this Nico. As we see, the Rift Herald was collected way before by the Jarvan. They have places to try and live it down. I would say go give it to Wixie so that he can get even more gold in his favor, and also try and play a bit more towards this bot side, because you can see how much control Winthrop wants to have around here.
Absolutely. Here's big trade from Moose Hater already, going to look to keep Denethor underneath the turret, denying him the ability to escape, and gets about half of his HP. Keel coming on up here as well now.
That's
going to throw down the Cataclysm.
Ooh.
Flashes from both top laners expended. Trying to get Denethor caught before he could flash away. Does not work out, but will keep that Jax on the backside. As Keel flashes in as well, trying to steal the Rift Scuttler. Does not get it. No, Trickster gonna walk away from that one and say, all right, buddy.
That has to be such a crabber moment, honestly. Flash in to try and get the Scuttle Crab just because you want to get the control over it and don't even get it. Really unlucky for Kill there. I did like the play over in topside though. I think the idea was good enough. And oh, Wixie.
Ability and Wixie all there. That full damage combo from Varus is just absolutely nuts. Wixie gonna end up chunked very, very low. Mobility just a sliver away from getting the execution down, and now it's really dangerous for Wixie to keep farming here. He had to flash. He had to flash after we cut away to avoid an arrow or something.
Well, Mobility did flash as well, so I'm guessing it was flash piercing arrow into flash from Wixie to try and escape. It almost worked out. It doesn't at the end. Wixie is staying here, but I'm not sure if piercing arrow at this point kills the Kai'Sa even with the W active. So it's not going to be Wixie dying here, but it's still tough affair or close affair down there. Really scary what could have happened, and Mobility is still showcasing that he has pressure down here in the bot lane. Oh, Dual King.
Great interrupt there from Moose Hater. He's trying to get himself out of there. Will be able to escape for now. Trickster keeping up the pressure. Now Keel and Onat going to try to take some pressure of their own towards the mid lane. They get themselves a turret plate. Sword actually uses the Spirit Rush, it looked like there, to make sure he's going to be able to escape and clear these out. Chucky's now forced to flash as Onat collapses on him, and Peach Cat's looking to take control over the bottom side of the map.
Really unluckily though, Onat doesn't get any of the gold from the plates because he wasn't in range, so not a lot of gold value that you probably were expecting from that play. But they are blowing flashes, they are trying to contest back. This is, like you were mentioning, a much more contested game compared to the previous one. There's plays that Pitch Cats can try and pull off that can turn around the current situation of the game. Chuki's trying to force really aggressively there.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the focus here. Teleport back towards mid from Onat. He looks to get himself on that side of the map. Going to be clearing on out waves and making sure that they're going to be able to collapse in for this dragon. So that's a teleport topside from Moose Hater, so not anticipating joining in for this dragon fight. Denethor doesn't have the teleport available quite yet. It might be a 4-on-4 for the next Blizzard.
They really want to kill Mobility here. Kill going in, but he doesn't really have the angle to actually try and force there. And with the Piego hovering on the side, they have complete control and safety. Oh wait, actually.
Oh, they're going to follow everything through onto Mobility, and he is blown up as Trickster arrives a little bit late. But Denethor is here as well. The stun coming on through for the counter-strike. A numbers advantage now given over to Winthrop. Keel going to drop as well. That is going to be a double kill picked on up, but does end up favoring the side of Winthrop as they're now looking for a little bit more in the mid lane. Sword trying to collapse on towards Onat, who's forced to head on out. Trickster going to be looking in for the stun, dodged away. Here comes the Pop Blossom, lands onto 2. Can he turn it back onto Sword? He's got Isles there for the backup. Hook from Chucky's, killing him underneath the turret. But Onat will stay alive just barely by the skin of his teeth.
Onat was really trying to play on the edge there because he tried to get the better angle for the stun, but at the end doesn't actually connect on it, almost ends up dying, and it does matter quite a bit for the side of Pitch Cats because even though they do get a kill down there in the bot lane after everything that happened, they lose out on 2 members. The teleport that you were mentioning, Gordo, coming in so importantly because Denethor had it. Whereas Moose Hater had it but used it to try and push top lane, ends up mattering for how the fight goes. And now with a bit of the lead going back in favor to the side of Winthrop, with Denethor now finding more and more gold value, and with them having the dragon stacking in their favor, how will Pitch Cats try and answer this? Because we're reaching the point where Pitch Cats should be really strong. The 1 to 1.5 item power spike.
Definitely, and instead it's a very faint gold lead over towards Winthrop. Still very close here, though, as this mid turret is so low on HP. Onat wants it, but Chookies knows, and Chookies looks for the dredge line. Just barely does not connect here. There's multiple members from either team collapsing in towards this mid lane to make sure they're going to be able to fight for its sword. Looking for Isles, does not connect with the charm.
The charm doesn't connect, but still the threat is always going to be there. You know that you have to be extra careful about how you opt into some of these plays. As we see the Rip Herald started on the side of Pitch Cats, they know that there's no teleport on Denethor, so should be an easy collection. But there's also the Rip Herald that doesn't matter that much. It's post-played. It does give you a bit of map pressure if you use it around the dragon timing, but it's not going to be a big difference maker when looking at trying to close out a bit of the gold lead.
Completely agree with you there. The difference maker is going to come down to execution, who finds the engage and onto whom. Keel really has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders for being able to find these big Cataclysm engages. That's where all of the action starts on off for the side of the Peach Cats, unless Isles gets himself a crazy quickness charm of his own. Grouping up around these objectives, they've yet to be able to find it at the dragon fights, and now 3.5 minutes away from another one. There's just not too many objectives to fight for, and the side laning is getting very strong for Denethor. He's a big threat up against anybody.
And we're reaching a bit of the lull state, as also in the meanwhile Mobility finally gets his flashback, so no longer just going to be extremely squishy. And speaking about Mobility and wanting to bring back a bit onto what we were hyping up coming into this matchup, right? The fact that these two bot lanes were so strong, so hyped, having a lot of players that have played in both the NACL, even reaching the highest level in the form of Isles. And so far, one of the best performing members and the one that is getting all the value is Mobility. The team is playing around him, but he's been playing really well. And he's a player that I think got a bit disrespected in his time in EG, as we see Moose Hater.
Yeah, rough trade up against Denethor there, and agree with you there, TDS. I think this is a big night for Mobility, showing out a lot here in a non-collegiate exclusive tournament. Winthrop, of course, been dominating the collegiate scene all off-season long, and now showing up even against pseudo-NACL teams like the Peach Cats here. Keel gets collapsed on at his Gromp, going to go for the smite fight, loses it, Trickster snags it, Chookie's finding the engage, Moose Hater looking to knock them out, Chookie's going to be left alone, but the teleport in. At his sword, joining the fight. The Peach Cats will disengage before he arrives.
Yeah, and that actually ends up being really nice for Pitch Cats, forcing the teleport off of Sword. That means that if he goes too far away, they won't have the potential for Sword to try and contest onto a fight, as they're looking for a play on the side, but they need to be extra careful. They are not super strong that they can just walk in blindly for a fight.
Yeah, but surely they want this fight in a 4-on-4, just because the 1-on-1 is so tough for Moose Hater. He's starting to lose more CS compared to what Denethor puts up, and he's not really got the strength anymore to fight in that 1-on-1. You gotta be winning the 4-on-4. So far, Peach Cats have struggled to really put those pieces together ever since that very quick skirmish on the top side where they got 1 kill off of Onat's Pop Blossom. Other than that, they just have not been able to put together the pieces that they need, as Isles finds himself outnumbered, but will be able to get out with the Super Blast Cone.
Just moving around the map with the Super Blast Cone, pretty much. As we see, they have vision here, so they know.
Yeah, focusing on towards Trickster, but very nice buffer off the Heartbreaker. He'll get himself out, and that's going to be Pop Blossom down. A huge team fighting tool no longer available to the Peach Cats.
I think it probably will be up for the next dragon fight, but the attempt at the end doesn't work out that well for the side of Pitch Cats. I don't dislike the idea though. I think them going aggressively there to try and kill Trickster works out really nicely to try and set up the play. So it's 50 seconds, it won't be up for the dragon unless they take 30 seconds more. So actually a big cooldown that can end up mattering in winning that next dragon fight if there is one.
Yeah, and Moose Hater getting chunked out before it even starts again. He does have access to the teleport, but will have to find time to regen. Keel looks at mobility, decides to stay better of it, and is going to have to back on away. Isle's going to have to retreat as well. This is a TP coming on in from Onat. He's got no Pop Blossom. He's caught in the river, goes invisible, trying to retreat, hooked back in by Chookies. The return damage not manifesting as the knockup connects on a Wixie. The rest of Peach Cats will be forced out. They escape with their lives, but so many flashes, so much health. They have no chance in this upcoming dragon fight.
This just means it's going to be a free dragon for the side of Winthrop. There's no way that they can try and contest this. No flash on Onat, no teleport on Onat. Pop Blossom coming back up just now, but it's not going to be a big meaningful ultimate if you cannot reach the backline. So Soul Point for free for the side of Winthrop, and there is a place that I wanted to commend Winthrop because we saw it in the first game and we're seeing it once again. The angles that Peach Cats need to find to try and turn around the game are not being found because Winthrop is playing around it so well. Denethor maybe collapse here.
Keel going for a play onto Denethor. Denethor going to be able to flash away, and that's it. That's all she wrote. Doesn't even bother committing the Cataclysm. Knows that that fight will not end up working out. They'll be happy to have blown that summoner, but I agree with you, TDS. I mean, Peach Cats looking a little out of sorts in this matchup, right? Keel goes in for the play. The team's not there to follow. He has to flash out. Onat teleports in, just gets collapsed on by 4 members. Everybody has to scramble to save him. It's a rough look here for these Peach Cats.
It's a really rough look, and you have to question why the difference is being so apparent here. Like, I understand these are teams that have a varying level of commitment between each other, right? One is a collegiate team. They've been playing together for longer. They've been through a lot of good moments and bad moments this year alone with what happened in the NACL OQs as well as CLO. And the other side is a team made pretty much out of, between friends that wanted to play together for the ACL. And the difference in experience in that sense does showcase why there's quite a difference in the matchup so far. But at the same time, the level of players, I was expecting a bit more for Peach Cats tonight, and I don't want to take any sort of credit away from Winthrop because I feel like a lot of why they're winning is on them, obviously. But I think that Peach Cats is lacking something tonight, and I'm not sure if it's just that they didn't come in on the right day. The day wasn't right for them, maybe.
We'll have to see. They're not out of this one yet. They are just about 1k gold behind, but definitely going to have to see a major shift in what we've gotten to see so far. The team fighting has been very powerful, especially from Wixie throughout this ACL season. We're going to have to see some of that magic coming into these sort of barren skirmishes and potential fights over Dragon. There's going to be Sword dashing on in, focusing in onto Keel, and Keel is down. No chance to be able to save him there from the rest of the Peach Cats, and now without a jungler, the Baron is going to get started here.
That's jungler down, no way to try and respond into this. There's no flash on Onat, so it's kind of difficult for him to look for a really great 4-man or 3-man Nico ultimate, and it's not looking like it's gonna be the case. They are controlling Nico so well.
Yeah, just trying to stall it out. Now the Pop Blossom only going to connect onto one. Wixie is able to find the kill onto Trickster. It is going to stop the hopes of a Baron. A second kill comes on through. His sword is going to be melted on down. They finally managed to get onto Wixie. Now it's all up to Moose Hater, but Moose Hater gets taken out as well. A triple kill comes through for mobility. The Baron is stopped, but it's at the cost of the team fight.
Yeah, at the very least, they stopped the Baron. It was a really weird fight where Onat doesn't fight the sort of value that you're looking for as the Nico, but they stop the Baron buff. They get a couple of kills for the Kai'Sa. Yes, mobility gets 3 kills, which is the scariest part out of everything here, but also Keel is able to come back. So now the Baron buff threat, for at the very least for the next minute, it's going to go away. But that was one of the first instances where we see the kind of combo that Peach Cats wanted to look for. It's not executed to the best degree, but at the very least we're looking at how it should try and be attempted.
Yeah, I agree there. They weren't able to get on a mobility, but Wixie is able to melt through Trickster pretty quickly, and that was the prime target that they needed. Stop the Baron from coming on through, stop the bleeding as best they can. And they do at least manage that. Denethor is able to pick up another turret up on the top side that is going to balloon the gold lead to about 3k. And a minute to go until this next dragon. Both teams going to have to contest this. Isles is caught, though. Trying to dash away with the grand entrance. Going to get followed on down. The Fang fails. but he will be able to get back to Wixie in time. Now Keel looking for the lockdown on towards Trickster. Trickster going to be able to flash back away from that as Sword looks for the re-engage. The damage getting focused in on a Keel. Keel tries to flash away and will get out through the Wolf Camp as a teleport back in from Onat. Focused on his Denethor now. It's going to be a knockup found by Moose Hater, and the Pop Blossom gets on towards Chookies, playing it front to back as Wixie is able to continue raiding through the damage, but Mobility finds a way to do the same. Trickster going to be able to get another reset there on towards Moose Hater and back on off. It's a 1-for-2 team fight, but the Peach Cats had found themselves a little bit of space to play.
They found the kills, they find the turret as well, and now with 30 seconds for the next dragon, they probably will get another opportunity to force a fight. Once again though, crucial ultimates were used. Way Kill.
Yeah, looking for more here. The knockup lands. They're focusing on to Trickster. Trickster goes down to Wixie. Sword up way too far is going to be the next one to drop. 2 kills to the Peach Cats.
Sword actually got screwed over by Mobility there. Well, it's the Hyper Blast Cone that pushes Sword into the enemy team and ends up killing him. Really unlucky there, but I will say you probably rather have Sword dying than Mobility. This is though the turning point for Pitch Cats, gaining Baron buff, sending 2 members, and potentially trying to contest the Dragon. Onat.
Hook connects there. They've got Onat. Onat goes down, and now it's only 2 members up against the 3 of Winthrop. Winthrop can threaten the Dragon Soul. Baron will go down, but Mobility will rip through this Dragon, and there's nothing that Isles and Moose Hater can do to stop it. That's not going to stop Moose Hater from trying. Brawling with Chookies as Mobility shows up with the damage and chunks him out low, relying on that Steadfast Presence passive to stay alive, but Mobility is unstoppable, and Mobility picks up another kill. Now, with only 3 members left alive for the Peach Cats, Winthrop are going to claim the Dragon Soul.
And that is going to be the soul obtained for the side of Winthrop. I will play devil's advocate. I think Baron was more important for the side of Pitch Cats than the Dragon Soul. And it's mainly because it's one of the lesser Dragon Souls that you can get, and also because now Elder is a win condition. And with this Baron buff, if they can try and shorten up some of the difference, get a bit of the standing goal that is left in the map in their favor, and give Kaisa more items, then you can try and fight for that Elder Dragon. That is game winning. The Soul is good, but it's not game winning. The Elder Dragon is. And I think that the idea to trade this objective at this point with how the game has been going is much better for Pitch Cat. But we cannot stop stating the obvious. Right now, Mobility is a big threat, and they have to find a way to try and stop the AD carry from Winthrop of just running the game over.
And that's really true for both marksmen, though. They've both got 3 items to their name plus boots. They are both looking very, very strong in these coming team fights, but the range advantage for Mobility is absolutely huge, and the team has been playing around him just so effectively.
No kill.
Heel hooked back in, going to go back to the dash, looking for the flag here. Over the wall comes Isles. Pop Blossom hits only Chookies. The damage is not coming through fast enough. Wixie, though, with a shot over the wall to be able to take down the jungler, but now he's forced to retreat because the remaining members of Winthrop are collapsing onto him. Sword in a one-on-one up against Onat. That Onat is not favored. Wixie finds his way back over the wall, but Onat will drop in this one-on-one if he's not careful. The Tangle Barbs will slow Sword down, but Sword is going to keep on chasing, and he's got that movement speed boost from the Spirit Fire, will eventually claim Onat's life, and Winthrop with numbers across the map will continue their push.
They have everyone alive in their favor, and that fight goes so well for them. They are more than likely going to take another turret, and Chuki is looking aggressive there.
Chookies has been non-stop with these hooks this game, and it has been incredibly difficult for the Peach Cats to avoid all of them. And, you know, Chookies was on point with the light bindings in game number 1, too. He's been such an important catalyst for Winthrop in this series to be able to find picks and get fights started. And he's looking for another one here onto the primary target, Wixie. He's got no ultimate. He's got no flash. He will drop 1-for-1 with Chookies.
And now it's 45 seconds without Wixie alive. They have a huge wave in the bot lane. They probably can try and push down there and try and collect, at the very least, collapse into the base and force, if not the inhibitor, the tier 3 turret. This is such a nice movement that Winthrop are able to find. And if they can find more gold in their favor for the Elder Dragon fight that we're talking about, if it reaches that point, that can be the game-defining factor.
And it feels like it's inevitably going to get to there before too long, but losing structures across the map are putting Peach Cats in a tighter and tighter position. So few opportunities to be able to fight back in this one. It is just going to all come down to that Elder Dragon fight. Sword potentially sees Keel there. Gonna steal away some camps. Would love to be able to make that pick. Keel's gonna be able to play a little bit safer. Knows that his life is crucial for these upcoming dragon fights. Does find Sword once again. Gonna be outnumbered here as Trickster's over the wall. Feels like he's tanky enough to sustain through it.
Yeah, Kill doesn't know there were more members there, but the same thing happens for the side of Winthrop. They don't know there were multiple members, so they end up not finding the value that they were looking for in that play. Going to be another tier 3 turret falling down though, and they have the push in their favor to try and maybe force a little bit more.
This is 5v4. Onak gets hooked in. Onak's gonna get blown up. The engage is found by Keel, but Moose Hater is not here. Moose Hater is still en route, and the Peach Cats are getting routed while they wait. A punt down onto 3 could turn this back around for the Peach Cats. As Wixie is able to take down 1. He's taking a mobility. Mano-y-mano, and they will trade 1-for-1 with the help of Moose Hater. But now Moose Hater in a 1 versus 3. Everybody he punted out is back for revenge, and they will get it. Looking to bust open the base for Winthrop University.
But still, they're Moose Hater able to salvage a bit of the game because with no medium wave, they cannot take down the turret until the next medium wave comes in. They probably will get the turret and an inhibitor, but not going to find the biggest amount of value. Mobility, though, stood his ground between 2 members and almost wins it out. Gets the kill onto Wixie, and I think that's pretty valuable in and of itself. But before that, Moose Hater won the fight, or salvaged the fight, with that huge hammer that stopped everything. And with how it went, this game is kind of open. Yes, there is a 5k gold lead in favor of the side of Winthrop, but we see how many cooldowns were used in the previous fight. There's no flash for mobility anymore. There is no flash on Chukis, and now the important ultimates are coming back up for Bitch Cats, and they do have flash on Onet particularly to try and reach the backline.
Yeah, you could say Moose Hater saved the fight with the Keeper's Verdict. You could also say that he ruined the fight by being across the map without teleport when it got started. But he does arrive, and they are able to hold on. Their base is not broken open. They do still have all their inhibitor turrets. Isles nearly hooked by Shookies there. That is a death sentence if I've ever seen one. And he does manage to get himself away. Now there's going to be Denethor, level 17 on this Jax, 3 items in. Will just launch himself at anybody he finds. Nice trade found back here by Moose Hater, going to chunk out Denethor to about half.
Poke actually now becomes more important since Wixie has more than 1 magical damage item, so he can begin stacking up on the poke, and it actually becomes really meaningful. Look at Onet's teleport, by the way. He's trying to reach the backline. They want to play around this. Oh.
Well, the hook is found. They're going to try to take the fight 5 versus 4. Wixie far enough away to try to stay alive, has to avoid Sword, and will be able to do so. Pop blossom out of the backline, focusing everything on mobility. Mobility is shut down, but Wixie is about to join him, and the reset for Trickster is going to give a Kaisa back over to Winthrop University. They are wiping this fight, and the Peach Cats are torn asunder. A triple kill to Denethor in the top lane, and the Winthrop University Eagles are moving into the base.
Favorites be damned, Gordo. Who the hell cares if you're expected to win in the night? It doesn't matter, because what matters is what happens in game. And Winthrop are coming in tonight saying, screw everyone else. We're here to win, and they're doing just that. Huge game, huge match, and huge props to everyone involved. This is kind of an upset when looking at how predictions went, and I'm excited to see how Winthrop will keep on going forward.
Through your predictions, it is the C-Lol era. Winthrop University moved to winners side finals. They are looking like one of the top teams in the Aegis Champions League and are surefire contenders to win it all after what they've shown here tonight.
Exactly, and it feels like the consistent roster is going to edge it out at the end. I will still hold my thought maybe on being the biggest favorite, but they are up already in that area. Like, they stopped being just a team that is doing good, and now they are becoming the team that can contest and can be a favorite as well. I'm excited to see what is going to happen with Winthrop going forward. And we hyped up Mobility so much this series, delivering so well. He played the team fights really effectively. But in that last team fight, I want to give a shout out to another man that is being hyped up for a fair reason, and it's Denethor. He played with the Jax really effectively, zoned out a lot of the members, find a really good angle with the counter-strike and follow it up really well onto Chuki's hooks. So overall, just playing so well. Winthrop with the deserved win, and everyone looking really crisp tonight.
Looking absolutely fantastic here. And yeah, Peach Cat's going to drop down to the lower bracket, going to have to turn around their fortunes from what they've shown us here tonight. But Winthrop will be going on to face the winner of Ole Miss versus Team Fish Taco. And that is going to be a banger side winners final. If I have ever seen one, TDS is both of these teams, all three of those teams looking so good. We'll find out later on tonight what the results of Ole Miss versus TFT are going to be.
It's going to be exciting seeing who's going to come there. I'm still inclining myself on TNT, but on TFT, but with the change in players, maybe it's Ole Miss and it's an all collegiate upper bracket finals. Actually, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, as we have got Mobility ready for an interview, and we will be back in just a moment once we pull him on in. So we're going to get everything set up. We will see you all in just a moment.
I don't think.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Aegis Champions League, where we are joined by the victorious Winthrop University Mobility. Mobility, congrats on the 2-0 win over Peach Cats here. You guys are going to the winner's side final. Were you expecting this to be so much of a one-sided matchup tonight?
Yeah. I think going into we think the team is a bit overrated, and I think we're a bit underrated, all our players for some reason. So I think we had a really good draft prep, and we were expecting it to be an easy series.
Yeah, I feel like that's a fair assessment as one of your main doubters for the team in general. Like I won't lie, I've been one of the biggest doubters for Winthrop, both in any CLOQs and here. But in reality, you guys are performing amazingly well. Like so far, you've lost what 2 games in all of the NEs in all of the ACL season. So it feels like the doubts should begin going away. And I'm kind of curious going a bit for what you talked about with draft prep because I'm not sure if it was recent, but I do remember Artemis being added to the team in general, and I'm kind of curious how much has that changed the dynamic for the team.
Yeah. Artemis and me usually, at least for this series, we talked a lot on what we wanted to do around bot lane. So, and he had a good plan going for the rest of the draft, and we just everything kind of worked out as we expected. Everything that they drafted, we already had ready. So.
All right. So you called out a second ago that you think PC are a little bit overrated. Who do you think then should be the top-rated teams in the event? I assume you have you guys up at the top there. Is there anybody else in the ACL that you feel like is like close to your level, or on your level, or above your level, or do you think it's super one-sided?
I mean, Peach Cats is probably like the second best team, but just I think they're
Over
just
Team
like
Fish
over.
Taco?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't even know who's on that team, but I think Peach Cats is like the second best team. It's just I think they're like overblown, overrated, and we're
Okay.
just like way underrated for some reason. But I mean, I'd still say they're the second best team. We'll probably see them in the finals again.
All right.
Yeah,
Exciting
that's
stuff.
interesting. That's an interesting approach. It's funny that it feels like every time we come into the interview, a lot of the players just say we don't really know who's on the team, but every time we find out, like the longer it goes, they end up finding out, and it's actually kind of fun to see how their expectations change a bit. And speaking of expectations, I'm kind of curious because there's a lot of AD carries in the league that are really good. Like I would say Wix is one of them as well, but I'm kind of curious if you rate yourself realistically as the top AD carry and who you feel like could be the biggest matchup to you if it's not Wixie.
Um,
We can include
I mean, I've
Meech,
got.
even though he's gone now.
Yeah, that would be fair.
I mean, if we include him, then I think it's me, Wixie, Meech. But if it's not Meech,
Okay.
then it's just me and Wixie. I mean, obviously, me personally, I think I'm the best AD carry here, but
Is
like
that? Can I
objectively, I think
interpret
it's.
that as Shogo BM?
Oh, I forgot Shogo's even in this. I mean, Shogo's up there too.
Okay.
See, and
So
I'm
Fair
just,
yeah,
enough.
I'd probably say us three.
just cutting in. I'm also kind of curious because Array is now stepping in for Mitch, so I'm kind of curious about how you rate Array now that he hasn't because he hasn't played in quite a while, but he was kind of big prospect also in CLO in the collegiate scene. I mean,
I don't rate him very high now, personally.
hey,
All right.
that's gonna be
Good to hear.
spicy.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So let's get back to the series just a little bit before we round on out. How do you guys feel like the game, like the draft, especially in game number one? I think a lot of folks were kind of saying draft gap, especially as we were coming on in. I think the Caitlyn Lux worked really well into the Callista Renata. Were you guys prepping for that specifically? Do you think PC kind of into the draft a little bit, or do you think you just had really good counters prepared? And you give us a little bit more insight into what you were kind of planning for coming into the series tonight.
Yeah, we had everything, like I said before. Sorry. Everything that they picked and everything that they banned, we had already written down or like ready for them to go. So we were pretty ready with like multiple drafts on what their first pick would be, and we are just ready to respond with all our picks.
And it worked out amazingly well, right? Because the first game was pretty much read out. Like I feel like the first game, yes, the first blood kind of feels like the tipping point because after that everything just falls completely over. But it's all on the fact that the draft is just so effective just
Yeah.
allows for that to be really easy to play out in general. And I'm kind of curious with your team because you said that it feels like the team is really underrated, and I do agree. A lot of people put a lot of the team in a spot where it's really underrated. But I'm kind of curious who you see, or the player in the team that you feel like deserves more respect that never gets it, pretty much.
That never gets respect. I'd say me and Denethor get a lot. We get talked about probably the most. So maybe just any of the other three. I mean, they are like a huge part on why I'm able to always be able to be carriers, or everybody is really good at playing their role. So probably the other three don't get
Okay,
talked about as much.
which I think is fair.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I think that's about going to do it for us here tonight. Mobility, anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to say to those who are tuned on in before we close it out for the night?
Uh, Shout out Winthrop and the coaching staff and everybody here for making it very easy to do our jobs. Yeah.
All right.
Also, I
Sounds
wanted
good.
to I wanted to throw out for just wanted to sneak it in there that any NACL GMs that want a really good roster, you can have this entire roster for free. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, you guys heard it here first. A whole
it works
team
out.
up for sale if you're looking to play in NACL, or I guess not for sale, up for
Yeah, no, it's free
grabs.
technically.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to grab them out here. So, something to note for everybody at home. Thank you very much for joining us here, Mobility. And for everybody at home, thank you for joining us tonight. Remember, we are going to be in best of fives from here on out. We will be back with the lower semifinals, BO5, on Monday. We'll go on through as we get through the rest of the bracket, Mondays and Fridays, until the tournament is complete. But that's going to do it for tonight's broadcast. We're going to send you guys over to Clown Gaming, where they are playing up against CCG in an elimination match to make top six and to play in those lower quarterfinals next week. Until then, thank you all again for tuning in. And for myself, TDS, PVS on production, Coachify, and everybody here at Aegis, until you see you next time.